So we are going to start with a roll call, and we'll see how we might need to do a little sound check as well, but we'll start with a roll call. So our board is present. Ilya Ardaman.
Yep, present.
Okay, we didn't. Ilya, can you say that again?
Present, yeah, can you hear me? Amy, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now, yes.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
here.
Okay, Ilya's present. Jennifer Simeo.
Present.
Ryan Smith.
Present.
Present. Alexander Woodard. Absent for Alexander Woodard. So we have a quorum of the Ward 3 NAB, and so we will call this meeting to order. First off, we will start with public comment. If there is anyone who is with us, joining us online, and you'd like to make a public comment, you can indicate by raising your hand with the raise your hand icon, and we will unmute you so you can speak. Public comment is 3 minutes. So we will see if we have anyone who'd like to make a public comment. It doesn't look like we have any public comment at this time. So we will move to item A, or sorry, item A3, which is approval of the agenda. Any motion?
Yeah, and are we, sorry, Amy, this is Ilya Arbitman for the record here. Let's just get past this one, I guess. I'll move to approve the agenda.
Great. Is there a second?
This is Jennifer Simeo. I'll second.
Great. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
I was just gonna ask Amy, is there a way we can like put the agenda up on the screen or something?
Oh, yes, we can. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Then all those opposed, say nay. Right, the agenda is approved for the January 4th meeting. Council liaison report, item A4. There, Councilmember Delgado isn't able to log on at the moment. If he joins us later, we may do that item out of order. And then for item A5, the staff liaison report. This is Amy Pennington, again, for the record. My only announcement at this time is just that for the time being, we are moving our meetings as much as possible to be virtual because of the influx of COVID cases at the moment. And so as soon as possible, of course, we hope to return to another, to back to our hybrid format. But at the moment, boards and commissions will be virtual. So just keeping that in mind as we're moving forward in the next month or so, that can be the expectation. And so then I guess, does the board have any questions for the liaison report?
I don't know.
I don't.
No, thank you.
All right, and then we'll move on to business items. So B1, this is the election of the chair and vice chair for the January through March meeting dates. And so the board can discuss, and I'll let you guys kind of take it from here.
Yeah, Jennifer, or Ryan, do you guys want to give it a shot?
What about if I could nominate myself as the vice chair?
Sure,
I'll
Ryan, you want
nominate Ilya as the chair.
to? Okay, sounds good.
One of you say that as a full motion, just so we have it for the record.
This is Jennifer Simeo. And we're nominating, I can't see the names now. Ilya for chair, Jennifer Simeo for vice chair.
Can I?
Do I have a second?
I'll set this is Ilya. I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor,
Aye.
say aye. Any opposed? All right, I guess the motion carries.
Okay, so we can move down to B2. Somebody has to scroll on. There we go. Okay, cool. So this is the one Truckee River management presentation on restrooms and other things. Let's take it away. And is whoever is presenting that here right now?
Yes, I am.
Awesome.
Okay, I think you guys are going to put up the presentation though.
Yeah,
Or we-
Amy, can we make sure that we see the presentation up there?
Sure. This
Um,
is, for the record, Jamie Schroeder, Director of Parks and Recreation, and Amy, I will go ahead and share my screen.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jamie, are you showing that you have the ability to share? Okay, great.
Yep. Okay. I think everyone can hopefully see that.
Yeah, we can see it. Thank you.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Take it away, Iris.
Okay, great. Hello, I'm Iris Jaley Papard, the Executive Director for One Truckee River, OTR, as I will refer to it. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. Next slide. OTR is a nonprofit that manages a coalition of public and private partners who work together to strive for OTR's mission within the complexity of their agency's priorities to ensure a healthy and thriving river connected to its community. Listed on the screen are some of our partners. Our guiding force is our Partnership Council with 22 local agencies represented that meet quarterly, and our Board of Directors, 7 dedicated residents that meet monthly. Our staff focuses on supporting partners to do more for the river by sparking collaborations and supporting the fundraising process for implementation. Next slide. Starting in 2013, over the course of many years, the OTR partnership developed through conducting many collaborative in-depth meetings, retreats, and forums focused on the challenges and opportunities that exist connected to the river with local agencies, nonprofits, and residents. In 2016, the OTR management plan was approved by the 3 jurisdictions and the Western Regional Water Commission. Next slide. The partnership developed 4 goals. Goal 1 is focused on water quality, Goal 2 on a thriving environment, Goal 3 on education, and Goal 4 on long-term management. At the end of 2017, OTR's Partnership Council prioritized 9 out of 103 action items in the OTR management plan. The next 3 slides share these action items per goal. Goal 1 has 4 action items prioritized listed. For the sake of time, I will not give an update for each one, but you can find more information on our website at onetruckeeriver.org under our work. For Goal 1 here, I will mention the completion and approval by Nevada Division of Environmental Protection of the 2020 Integrated Source Water and 319H Watershed Protection Plan for public water systems and the Truckee River in the Truckee Meadows. The completion of this plan was led by the Truckee Meadows Stormwater Permit Coordinating Committee. It is a living document publicly available at Washoe County cleanwater.org that's listed on the screen. Next slide. Under Goal 2, we have 3 action items prioritized listed. For this goal, I will mention the completion of a multi-jurisdictional signage project that installed 250 plus signs, including maps, directions, rules, stewardships, and interpretive signs along the river, led by Nevada Land Trust. I will note here that there is no prioritized action items under Goal 3 at this time. Goal 4 has 2 prioritized action items listed. For this goal, I will mention the completion of transitioning OTR from its past fiscal agent to its long-term home, the Truckee River Foundation. Now I will share details on action item 1.3.c, focused on increasing public restrooms along the Truckee River. Out of this action item, the Truckee River Restroom Project was developed. Next. Factors that moved the OTR partnership to prioritize the project included concern of human impact on water quality and the growing recreational need along the river, with our region forecasted growth of 120,000 new residents by 2035. OTR recognizes public restrooms as a basic building block of a complete functioning public park. By improving public space for everyone, restrooms build community resilience, increase urban renewal, and improve public health. OTR's vision is to connect residents and visitors to unparalleled opportunities for recreation. Access to public restrooms support this vision. In 2018, OTR's Housing and Sanitation Working Group that included representatives from the 3 jurisdictions, Community Foundation of Northern Nevada, Downtown Reno Partnership, and local residents, researched restroom options and conducted multiple interviews with local cities, staff, and elected officials. Next slide. The project gained a lot of engagement and financial support from the partners and collaboration from other relevant regional stakeholders that are listed on the screen. Next slide. In 2019, the project's phase 1 to 4 was proposed with the goal to add 10 new public restrooms, an increase from 9 to 19 along the Truckee River stretch from Lake Tahoe to Pyramid Lake, which includes proposed locations in the city of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County. Next slide. Listed on the screen are public meetings where the project was presented and steps forward approved. Support letters for the project's first restroom installation was collected by local businesses, including the Courtyard Marriott and Reno Aces. Next slide. In 2020, the City of Reno coordinated with Truckee Meadows Water Authority to install the project's first new public restroom along the river at Broadhead Park in August 2020. Data was collected a month before and since its installation to determine the successes and challenges of the project. From August 2020 to September 2021, there have been 12,112 flushes at the restroom, which is an average of 30 flushes a day. Through December 2021, from agencies that maintain the loo, there have been 7 minor incidences that involve vandalism, including graffitis, an issue with the door lock. All minor damages were quickly repaired. For the City of Reno, during an 18-month period, there were 15 calls for service in Broadhead Park, in which one of the following keywords was included in the call detail: Portland loo, restroom, bathroom, or toilet. The total estimated staff time the calls required represents approximately 0.1% of the city's total staff duration over 18 months. Overall, community response for the new restroom facility has been very positive, and the metrics show that phase 1 has been successful. With support from Nevada Division of Environmental Protection, the second new restroom is proposed for installation at John Champion Park in the City of Reno. OTR applied for funding for the third installation at Bicentennial Park following City of Reno guidance. The application is pending and a decision should be made by February of 2022. On the screen are regional plans that mention a need to increase infrastructure, public restrooms, and/or public facilities, including OTR's management plan, the updated City of Reno master plan, Reimagine Reno, the Truckee Meadows Trail Plan, the Washoe County Regional Transportation Commission Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan, and the Nevada Statewide Comprehensive Outdoor Recreational Plan. Recently, the project secured letters of support from leaders within the Tahoe Pyramid Trail and Truckee Meadows Trails efforts. Now OTR is focused on gaining more public input on the order to prioritize future locations through an online countywide survey that is active now until February 10th. Please go to onetruckeeriver.org's homepage to take the survey. Next slide. More City of Reno public meetings coming up where the project will be discussed is listed on the screen. Next. And that's the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
I don't have any questions. Thank you for the presentation. It's very interesting.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions either. I just want to say that it looks very exciting, and I loved the signs that you showed going up along the trail. It looks great.
Thank you.
Just briefly, what can people expect to see in that survey that you put up there?
It's 3 questions, and the first one is, do you support increasing public restrooms along the Truckee River? Yes or no? And then the second one lists out all the 10 locations proposed, or I'm sorry, the 9, not the one that's already installed. And you can prioritize them by how you think they should be installed. And then the third asks you what you do along the Truckee River. And then there's a place to add any other further input.
Great, and it probably said this in the slide, but I think I missed it. Is that survey live already, or did you say it's live in February?
It is. It's live. It's been live for a week, and you can just go to One Truckee River's website, and it should pop up automatically when you go to the site. If it doesn't, please let me know, and then I can send you the direct link.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Chris, I actually have a question about this that I just thought of. What will the hours of these restrooms be? Will they be open 24/7, or are there certain hours they'll be available?
The Broadhead one is open now 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And yeah, it's not recommended for them to be open 24/7. And there's somebody there every night at 7 p.m. to ensure that it's not being used for other things while it's closed.
Okay, great. Good to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Amy Pennington for the record. Just a reminder to everyone to try and say your name before you speak, just so for the record, we're able to identify the audio. Thank you.
Okay.
Ilya Arbman for the record. I do actually have one other question. Are the other bathrooms, are they gonna pretty much be the same model that the Broadhead one is physically?
Iris Jaley Papard for the record. We have 2 more Portland loos that are already purchased. And so those will be the same as the one in Broadhead. And then moving on, it kind of will go per location. And we are also looking into the local Nevada restroom company as the 4th one we're considering at Mayberry, and they would like to have more than 1 stall. And so, and then also there's a significant price difference. So yeah, we are scheduled for 2 more Portland loos, and then beyond that, it is up for negotiation what type of restroom it would be.
And this is Ilya Arbitman for the record. And is the reason that the timeline is sort of that stretched out, is that because of funding or because of trying to kind of determine the success of the previous bathrooms before you put in a new one? Why is it kind of going all the way out so many years?
Iris Jaley Papard. I would say it's both, but mainly it's funding.
Yeah, they do seem pretty expensive.
Yes, they do.
Okay, any other questions from the board? All right, thank you so much, Iris.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and
Chair Ilya, this is Amy Pennington for the record. I would ask that if we can jump back to item A4, we have Councilmember Delgado
oh, perfect.
with us.
Okay, yeah, let's hear from Councilmember Delgado. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. Sorry I was late. And appreciate everybody's ability and flexibility to jump on virtual as everyone's going to start doing that, as Amy, I'm sure, explained to you guys already. I don't have a lot to cover today, but just want to thank everybody and Happy New Year. A big piece, though, I think is really exciting is that we have new ward maps. And Ilya, what I shared with you also at the council meeting is that with these new ward maps, we're going to do a concerted effort early in the year to really reach out and engage new Ward 3 residents or business owners or stakeholders to apply to be on the NAB. I think it's important that we kind of held off on that in the immediate, knowing that now we have new districts that would like to, of course, have input and have a seat at the table. So you guys all be ready for that, but it doesn't mean that you all can't already push out and advertise among your neighbors and others to consider joining the NAB and all the important work that you all do. In addition to that, we're really excited to kind of start pushing forward on some opportunities to gain knowledge and data from our Reno Direct. As I'm sure you guys are starting to see how important it is that we kind of use data to kind of push our strategies. It's not the only way, but it's a really concerted way on how we can work with the city council and the mayor and our budget to see what are the big needs in Ward 3. And so again, push out 334 info so we can get that information. So it helps me go back to kind of see how we're doing that fiscally to make sure resources are getting pushed back into the ward on some of those issues. Other things I think that are exciting coming up this year would be some of the really focused ARPA fund opportunities to enhance those communities that have been heavily impacted by COVID and making sure that those funds go back into those communities. So please continue outside of the NAB, continue to be engaged with how we're utilizing those funds. I want to hear your guys' advocacy to making sure that those funds are going back in again to those communities that have been hardest hit by COVID. And so that's what we'll be pushing, hopefully, not only in our parks, but also seeing in infrastructure opportunities throughout our neighborhoods. Another piece I want to share with all of you is I've heard from a few of you guys about just general crime issues in our ward and our neighborhoods. Heard from a few of you regarding gang issues. And so the RPD should be coming back to the NAB with some more information as to where there's gang activity happening, if it's increased, and how we're kind of trying to mitigate some of those issues so we can make sure that people feel safe again in their neighborhoods. The last thing I'll leave you guys with is I'm working with some constituents over off of Mira Loma between the Southeast Connector and Mccarran. We see a lot of increased traffic, and you have a huge amount of residents in those apartment complexes. So we're looking at how we can make some general improvements for pedestrian safety on that road between the Southeast Connector or the Veterans Parkway and Mccarran. But that's my quick little summary. Happy to answer any questions, generally speaking, without breaking an open meeting law from anyone on the NAB board.
Thank you, Oscar. This is Ilya for the record. And those new ward maps, where can we see those again?
Those are live now. So Amy, if you could chime in, they should be available on our websites now. Amy, is that true?
I am just trying to find the link right now, and then I will let everyone know what that is.
One of the big changes that I'll share with you guys is 4th Street. A lot of that business district was formerly in Ward 5. That's been a bigger change now. Now that's in Ward 3. And so so I'll be working a lot more closely with a lot of the businesses on Ward 4. That's also now part of the CARES campus, formerly in Ward 5, will now be in Ward 3. Also, further down south, the Atlantis is now a big part. It's more of a business, commercial strip versus residency, but that's also now in Ward 3, which that was formerly in Ward 2. Again, the bigger changes you'll see across the wards is Ward 2 had to lose people because they were over population, and so I gained a few. And also Ward 4 was the other large ward that had a large amount of population that had to decrease overall population. And that's where you saw Ward 3 and Ward 5 kind of pick up certain areas. And for those that are interested, all jurisdictions across Nevada had to go through the similar process. I believe Washoe County is currently still reviewing their county districts. So I encourage anyone that's interested in seeing how those communities will be represented to take a look at what their process is as well.
This is Amy Pennington for the record. To find the new ward maps, the easiest way is, well, the easiest way is to just search ward maps, Reno. But to go through our website, the government tab and then city council on the left-hand side, if you press that, there is an option for ward map. And if you click, where I think this is still slightly because it's new, there'll be a thing there that says that the new word maps are coming. If you press OK at the bottom, it actually displays the new word map. So they're in the process of updating that to display right away, but it is available to be viewed on our website. And the URL is reno.gov/government/city-council/ward-map.
And again, we'll be pushing a lot of this out through social media and other channels, and also just a general press release to general media advising people that we'll be sending out. My belief, Amy, is all representatives across City Reno will send out postcards to new residents, new businesses, so they are aware and informed that they are now may be represented by a new council member.
That's my understanding as well.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Delgado.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate all your hard work. I know, and I'll leave you guys on this piece. I know things are tough right now with the surge numbers in COVID. But if you guys don't already have, Amy can give you guys my cell number, and let's stay in touch and let's get together. I appreciate you guys very much. Let's get some good work done this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to item, where were we? This would be B3, correct? Presentation, let's see. Right, the tree protection ordinance. So is whoever presenting about that here?
I am. This is Kelly Mullen with City of Reno. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. And then Amy, I was trying to share my video, but it looks like I'm not able to do that. Is it okay to just stay off screen then?
Yes, are you going to be sharing your screen to do your presentation?
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to double check on the video piece. So I'm going to go ahead. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share that screen. Please just give me a moment. All right. And are you able to see right now the full screen of the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started again. Kelly Mullen, Principal Planner with the City of Reno. Thank you so much for having me here this evening to present on the city's new tree protection standards that are being proposed. This is a project that is years in the making, so we're excited to be able to bring it forward to the public at this point. And my presentation this evening is going to run probably 10 to 15 minutes, so I'll just give you that heads up. Tonight, what we would like to discuss with you is provide just an overview of the project itself, including the purpose and reasoning behind it, identify some of the key changes that are in the proposed ordinance, talk about the timeline of the project a little bit, the opportunities that the public and stakeholders will have for involvement in providing input, and then at the end to get input from the NAB and from any community members who are in attendance and answer any questions. And I do want to point out that we have launched a webpage directly for this project that's available at reno.gov/trees. And there you will find more details about the project itself. You'll see the actual copies of the draft ordinance. There will be an opportunity to submit comments online and to subscribe to updates as we move through the process. So first screen, I know this is a lot of information that you'll see up here. I'm not going to go through it. I just want to highlight that when it comes to tree protection and the importance of trees to the city of Reno, that we have numerous adopted plans that focus on or have adopted policies related to increasing the tree canopy and the importance of trees in our community. So you will see that throughout the city's master plan, in our sustainability plan, and in the urban forestry management plan. So as we move through the process, you know, a lot of the changes that are being proposed are an attempt to implement the policies that are adopted there. So what I'm going to cover first is just a kind of a high-level overview of our existing tree protection standards and requirements that we have codified right now. So most of you probably are aware that, you know, when new development comes in, that landscaping is required to be installed. That varies based on what the use is that is being proposed. And that generally will include requirements for soil, for irrigation, for planting size, for species, that type of thing. We do require that existing trees be inventoried for certain types of permits. And when impacts are proposed right now to trees within the front yard or to trees in the right of way, mitigation is required. Landscaping that is required to be installed, of course, it needs to be maintained, and that is something that if it's not maintained, it could potentially result in fines or licenses being revoked. You know, right now, public trees are definitely more heavily protected. They're part of our green infrastructure owned by the city, and permits right now are needed to maintain or remove those. And generally, replacement or an in-lieu fee is required when public trees are removed. So with this tree protection ordinance, what are the issues that we're trying to get at? What problems are we trying to address? You know, what's behind the push to adopt changes to our codes related to trees, besides just implementing the policies that have been adopted in some of our master plans? You know, some of the things that we've been seeing, things that we would like to make sure that we address to get at those goals, especially of increasing tree canopy, is we're seeing that a lot of the required landscaping in certain projects, seeing that actually being removed or being damaged outside of the permitting process. An example of that is when you see, you know, trees on commercial properties, that kind of thing, being topped and then not being replaced. One of the other issues that's seen is landscaping not being installed actually according to plans or to standards. And the issue with that is that it reduces the likelihood of those trees surviving and thriving in the long term. And going back to, you know, existing code standards right now, when it comes to tree protection, those standards only apply to trees that are located within the front yard or trees that are on the street and in the right of way, and only during construction activities. Right now, some of the input that we've heard from the community is that there's uncertainty in the thresholds where tree protection standards do apply, the valuations of trees, who's responsible for maintaining trees, and what the penalties are when they're not maintained. And so that's something that we've heard from the community needs clarity. And then I think like a lot of different government agencies, certainly there's limited resources that are available for implementing and enforcing existing codes. So just to give you a brief overview in terms of process and what we'll talk about tonight, we met with the Reno Urban Forestry Commission. When I say we, staff met with the Reno Urban Forestry Commission over a series of meetings, 6 different meetings, workshops that were held September through December. And we received some pretty significant input and policy direction from that Urban Forestry Commission. So the draft that is available for the public review right now and that we're asking input on is that draft that came out of those workshops with the Reno Urban Forestry Commission. We are touching 2 different major sections of code as part of this amendment, Chapter 832, which generally governs public trees and those trees that have been deemed a private nuisance. Changes in that chapter are primarily based on clarifying standards and responsibilities. We do have some new sections in there related to appraisal methods and financial assurances, and then some enhancements as well to existing standards. Title 18 is where you will see standards for new development. And that is a pretty hefty title of the Reno Municipal Code, several hundred pages, governs all sorts of standards and requirements when new development goes in. But specifically, we will be addressing standards in the areas associated with landscaping installation, tree protection, and maintenance. From an kind of a very high level view, that would include proposed expansions of tree protection standards on private property, and then a number of clarifications and streamlining procedures. Just again, at a very high level, that's what's involved. Right now, the next 4 or 5 slides, we're actually going to go through some of the details. But again, I do want to point folks back to the availability of being able to see the actual code changes. If you are interested, those are on reno.gov/trees. We'll be trying to provide kind of a brief overview of some of the key changes, but of course, devil's in the details, and that's where you will see the specifics of many of these topics that we'll go over. So in chapter 832, which again is where you will see standards related to public trees and then those private trees that are deemed a nuisance, there you'll see an enhanced purpose section, new definitions that will help with clarity, a new option for designating private landmark trees. Right now we have it codified where public landmark trees can be designated. But looking at creating a new section that would allow for private landmark trees to be designated as well, and incentives associated with that. Another big piece related to clarification would be clarifying maintenance responsibilities for property owners that abut public trees, and also HOAs that maintain public trees, and clarifying, who's responsible for what when it comes to property owners versus the urban forestry team. And also codifying a process for when there is an abutting property owner who would like to remove a public tree that's not currently scheduled for removal. So actually putting into place a process that would address that set of circumstances. Another new section that is proposed is codifying standards related to how to appraise public trees and offering a new simplified appraisal method. Also, you'll see the first 3 bullets here are about clarification related to permits, permit review times, and then adding a new piece about financial assurances being required if during construction activity, if the property owner is unable to adequately protect existing public trees from those construction activities, then financial assurances would be required based on that new draft. And then consolidating sections that you'll see in part of the existing code related to disease and infested trees and prohibited trees. So that high-level view of the changes in chapter 832. Now we'll get into those changes for Title 18. Again, that is the section of Reno Municipal Code that deals with new development and requirements for new development. So the changes in this title are pretty substantial. You'll see an overhaul of the tree protection standards currently in place. And what that means, just kind of, in bulleted fashion, is expanding applicability across private property. Again, if you'll remember, right now, tree protection standards are only applicable for trees that are in the front yard and trees that are in the right of way. So this would be expanding those tree protection standards across private property and to all activities, any potential activity that could negatively impact a protected tree. So not just to construction activities that are authorized by a building permit. Adding some applicability sections as well, clarifying that protection standards would apply to all non-residential, mixed-use, multifamily, and common open space developments, and would be applicable to trees that are 2 inches in diameter or larger, or if the tree is from the prohibited species list, if it was 4 inches or larger. Exemptions are proposed for single-family homes, for defensible space work, and when there are imminent safety threats. And then some additional key changes would be an expansion of the incentives to preserve existing trees, to really try to encourage folks to have good tree canopy on their property, have existing mature healthy trees, to incentivize them to keep those trees in place. And one of the incentives there is increasing the credit for, when you keep a tree on the site, that would give you a certain amount of credit for, toward your new landscaping requirements. Right now, the credit for preserving existing trees is 30%. This would be increased to 50% in the current draft, and then that credit, it would be based on the size of the tree. And then kind of a companion piece to that is expanding the mitigation requirements. If property owners were seeking to remove trees from their property, also what is proposed is an increase in that replacement requirement. Right now, if trees are removed again from the front yard or from the right of way, that it requires 30% replacement. And so this would be expanded with the current draft. What's proposed is 100% replacement. If it happened to be a prohibited species tree, then it would be a 50% replacement requirement, again, based on the size of the tree. So 1-to-1 ratio is what would be proposed. And then if the property owner is unable to replant those replacement trees on the site, there's some new alternatives that would be available that are not currently available. One of those is to potentially plant those replacement trees on public property, or another alternative would potentially be to pay an in lieu fee to the Relief Reno Fund, which does help to increase the canopy throughout the city through a variety of different ways, but that fee would be based on the tree's appraised value. And then, of course, other changes kind of throughout the articles, or I should say, apart from the code process, would be based on process and procedure. There's a lot of discussions that are occurring behind the scenes of looking for ways to streamline, processes related to landscaping permits, tree removal permits, looking for ways to ensure that trees that are approved to be installed, that the landscaping, that they get installed according to the plans that were approved. So one of the pieces of that is increasing and actually establishing specific inspections for that component, for landscaping. That is a piece that we would be seeking funds from council to authorize an additional staff person to be able to increase those inspections and make sure that, just like other aspects of building permits where inspections are required, the landscaping component be inspected as well. And then also just in terms of trying to streamline by removing some details from the code that can be pulled out into the Public Works Design Manual standard details. And that's kind of a streamlining effort that I think would help both staff and those going through the permitting process. And then just talking internally about ways to streamline our tracking and permitting procedures. And going back to some of the changes in Title 18, a new procedure would be a landscape permit being required if there are activities that would potentially impact those protected trees or require landscaping. If someone is looking to remove, say, protected trees or landscaping and it's not part of a construction or permit, anything like that, putting in a new requirement where, hey, if you're impacting protected trees or required landscaping, that you would need to come in and obtain a landscape permit for that. And also building in some new flexibility, allowing for modification of standards under extraordinary specific circumstances. Some of the additional changes that you will see in Title 18 in that current draft are updated requirements for parking lot trees and the associated soil for them, as well as for the sizes of new street trees being planted, and then a requirement for newly planted trees to meet the city's soil quality and volume standards. So in terms of timeline for the project, back in June, we initially went to the Urban Forestry Commission to review concepts and option. And then in July, council initiated that code amendment. In August, staff drafted that the initial code language for changes. And then we had those 6 workshops with the Urban Forestry Commission. So that current draft does reflect their policy direction. And you'll see the little asterisk next to January, because what we are in right now is starting off actually tonight, the first in the series of 10 workshops, neighborhood advisory board meetings, and open houses, where we are going out into the community and seeking input on the proposed changes. We expect that we'll hear some really good input and feedback from the community, from stakeholders, and that will result in an updated draft that would then be brought back to the Urban Forestry Commission in February or March, where we would be seeking their recommendation. Followed by a planning commission hearing for their recommendation as well, before going to council, likely in late spring. we're almost near the end of the presentation. I have this slide in here about stakeholders because we recognize that this particular ordinance, that the proposed changes involve a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different viewpoints from a lot of different groups and priorities. And, you know, some of those are reflected here on the screen, whether it's folks who work in the landscaping community directly, or they're developers or business owners, private property owners, you know, the departments in the city of Reno that need to implement and administer codes in place, other government agencies, other interested parties, and then of course our reviewing and our recommending bodies as well. All of those are stakeholders that we want to hear from as part of this process. And so that's why we have that series of input opportunities coming up. Again, I want to plug that website, reno.gov/trees, where you can view the actual code language, subscribe to updates, and submit comments. And then we are kicking off a workshop, a series of workshops this Thursday, January 6th at 3 p.m. On that website, reno.gov/trees, we do have links to register for that workshop and the other workshops that you will see on the screen. We have a couple of open houses scheduled at the end of the month, but with that, you know, change due to COVID protocols, we may be changing the format of those to abide by those changes in protocols. So with that, I'd like to conclude my presentation. Thank you so much for your time this evening. And at this point, I would love to hear any input or questions that you, the board, or the community may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions from the board?
This is Ryan Smith. Kelly, first of all, I just want to say that was such a thorough presentation, and I feel like I learned a lot about the tree preservation in Reno. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
One question I had is, besides the website, how are you going to get this information and this message out to the public in the masses?
Certainly, great question. So we are actually planning a news release that should be going out this week. We're working with our communications team on that. We're also doing, in addition to the news release and just trying to get it out that way, social media posts, blog posts. We're also doing direct outreach to many of the stakeholders that we are aware of, that we have direct contacts for. Certainly to, you know, the landscape architects and the landscaping community and developers, et cetera, those where we know have a, you know, a specific interest and have that contact info, we're doing direct outreach. But then, you know, when it comes to having the information on the website and hoping that word of mouth, in addition to all of those methods, will help spread the news.
This is Jennifer Simu for the record. Thank you, Kelly, for the presentation. I'm a tree lover, so tree hugger, so trees are very important to me. I just had a couple questions. A few years back, there were some trees that I don't know if they were just, they died or what happened to them, but there were a lot of community members who were upset that the city was letting trees die. These were trees that a lot of community members were really attached to. Is there additional funding? Like if, you know, community members really want to save a tree, is there additional funding to support that tree and keep that tree alive?
And just to make sure I understand, are you referring specifically to like public trees?
Yes.
Okay. And so what I'm going to do, we actually have, I should have mentioned this earlier, we have on the call with us this evening, Matt Basil, who is our urban forester, and Jamie Schroeder, our director of Parks and Recreation. So I'm going to send that question over to Matt.
Hello, I'm Matthew Basil, for the record, City of Reno urban forester. Thank you for that question. We do have, so through our Relief Reno fund, that is a fund where we do have money available to do you know, extra proactive care for trees within the city. We also have just within my urban forestry budget, money available for like pest treatments and mitigation of damage from like sidewalk rehabilitation and things like that. So we are trying to be much more proactive with the ongoing care of our public trees. And if someone's specifically interested in saving certain trees, Relief Reno is probably the specific fund where we could, take donations to use them for the trees that you're concerned about. And generally, if you notice a tree is struggling, or you notice there's some issues, we do encourage you to call Reno Direct and submit a request for service to come and take a look at the tree. We do have roughly 26,000 trees that we maintain. So often, if a lot of times we learn about trees that have a disease or are struggling from residents who call in about it. So I hope that answers your question. Or if you have specific examples about the trees that you lost, if you have any comments about that, I'd be happy to address those as well.
Thank you, Matthew. No, I think that answered my question. And then I just had one other question. I live right off of Mccarran, the Mira Loma Longleaf section, and there were a lot of trees planted along Mccarran Boulevard, and I noticed a lot of them have come down and been cut down. Are there any plans to replace those trees along Mccarran, along that corridor of Mira Loma and Longleaf?
That's a great question. So the challenge there is that Mccarran is actually maintained by the state, by NDOT there. So they require stringent permits for us to work there and conduct any work. NDOT is actually the entity who removed all of those trees that were along Mccarran. Basically what happened there was when they expanded Mccarran and did that work, they added a lot of reclaimed irrigation to the trees that were existing, and it was it was basically too much water for those trees, and they all perished. But unfortunately, at this point, it is an NDOT thing. So NDOT does not have any plans to do any landscape enhancements, unfortunately. So that is an ongoing issue, and you'll notice that on other areas that are maintained by NDOT, there's certain medians, particularly in the Mccarran Loop, that don't look very good, and it's really been a struggle for us to work with NDOT to make improvements there. So fortunately, not the greatest answer for you. I'd love to get some trees back in there, especially since we do have irrigation resources. It's definitely a challenge to work with NDOT to get that done.
Thank you, Matthew. So Jennifer Simeo, for the record, would it be appropriate then to contact NDOT directly and kind of maybe ask them? Or
it definitely would be. I think a lot of the work that they do, much like the city of Reno, is driven by citizen complaints and requests, and I think most people do assume that the trees there are maintained by the city of Reno. So calling into NDOT and bringing up those concerns should be helpful. NDOT did bring on a landscape architect within the past couple years, so they are starting to look at making some improvements to the kind of their status quo, but there's definitely a lot of work to be done there.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for the very thorough presentation.
Thank you for having us. And again, if you have any follow-up questions or would like additional information, reno.gov/trees. Have a great evening.
Okay, let's move on to B4, the Daybreak presentations. Is that presenter here?
This is Amy Pennington for the record. We are just promoting them to panelists right now.
Perfect.
Oh.
So
Yes, this is Derek Kirkland Wood Rogers. I am available.
Thank you, Derek. Go ahead.
Gonna go ahead and share my screen. I got a PowerPoint. I actually have basically there's 2 different tentative maps, but I have them all in one presentation if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
You guys all see that screen?
Yep.
Okay. Again, Derek Kirkland Wood Rogers for the record, representing the Daybreak project. We have 2 tentative maps, villages 20B and 20A. So as many of you know, and I'm sure have seen in the past, so Daybreak is a planned unit development, which allows up to 3,995 dwelling units. As of to date, we have 989 of those approved through various villages, 18 and 19, 21 and a portion of 20, and then the east side was approved a while ago. Some highlights of the PUD, 36% of the project site is 980 acres. Of that 980 acres, 36% is open space, parks, wetlands, and flood storage, which is basically all the green areas you can see in the map. Part of the project was reestablishing the old Thomas Creek was actually ponded up for irrigation purposes. And so the part of the project is to restore that Thomas Creek area. And then also focus on kind of multimodal connectivity for this community, and as well as connecting to the wonderful bike paths we have along Veterans Parkway. And I will note that the Daybreak, you'll start to see Daybreak is actually Telus Valley now. And so you'll see that change coming through as we move forward. So basically what we're talking about tonight is 20B, which is basically kind of this lighter orange area, and then the brighter orange area is 20A. I will point out that area 21 and 20C, we were gonna present those to this NAB last month, but the meeting was canceled. And so I'll touch on those a little bit, but those were approved at Planning Commission in December. In terms of connectivity, so we will, part of the project and this whole kind of middle area is to construct the first portion of the main backbone roadway, which gives you kind of a cross section. It'll have a shared use, multi-use path on one side. It'll be 4 lanes, have bike lanes, well-landscaped median areas. And we will be constructing a signal at Echo Valley intersection on South Meadows Parkway. And then we'll be connecting, you can see the purple line, basically connecting the shared use path along the edge of the villages that'll connect back to a path along South Meadows that connects to the Veterans Parkway path system. This area is going through what we call a conditional letter of map revision. And so as part of the project and part of what was approved with the PUD is basically redoing the Thomas Creek area and building some flood storage capacity in there and some of the areas to the north, as well as removing this area where the project's at from the flood zone. That permit has been submitted to both the city and FEMA, and so that is an ongoing process, but we have been working with them and have submitted that CLOMAR. The other part of this is getting a 404 permit through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. That is also in process, and that basically the majority of the mitigation for that is restoring that Thomas Creek channel area. So this gives you kind of an overview of kind of this, what we call the town center area of Daybreak. And as I mentioned, so 21 and 20C were approved in December by Planning Commission. And what we're talking about tonight is basically 20B and 20A. And this this west side of the town center, 19A, 19B, 18B, and 18A were approved earlier in 2021. Part of the town center, the purpose in the PUD that was approved was to really kind of promote the missing middle products. So you'll see a lot of smaller lot type products. It's really aimed at affordability by design. So creating some lots that can be more obtainable for first-time home buyers. So you'll see a lot of some single-family attached type products, townhome style stuff. And so that's kind of what this town center is about. Village 22 here, although not part of these applications, is the proposed kind of town center commercial area. Just to highlight real quick, Village 21, this is the kind of down by South Meadows and Veterans Parkway. This again was approved already by Planning Commission last month. These are single family detached standard lots, just smaller lot sizes. Lot sizes range about 3,700 square feet, just gives you a kind of a perspective of how this lays out. We are going to have, and this shows you an example of the walking path that'll be along the subdivision that'll connect to South Meadows Parkway, and then it'll go across Veterans and connect with the Veterans path. And then we'll have kind of this landscape buffer area between the subdivision and Veterans Parkway. And then the other open area you see here is basically the existing flood control that was put in as part of the Veterans Parkway project. Moving on, 20C. Again, this was approved last month by Planning Commission. This was 65 lots. These are a little bit smaller, 3,400 square feet. They have varying lot sizes with some larger corner lots, but again, just a different product style, gives you a kind of a perspective of what those might look like. And a lot of these houses you'll see is a mix of around 1,400 square feet to all the way up to 1,900 square feet in terms of the actual houses themselves, a mix of 1 and 2 stories. And again, extending that kind of landscape buffer and walking path kind of along Veterans Parkway, kind of clean up that area a little bit as well as putting in some of the backbone roadway infrastructure as well. And Village 20A, this is the one that we will be going to Planning Commission with this month. This is for 106 lots, kind of a unique product. These are a little bit smaller lot sizes. They're referred to as compact lots. So these have, I'm going to get to in a minute. I'll talk about how these things lay out, but they're basically detached lots, but they have some of them have driveways, some of them don't have driveways. The streets are public and full-size public streets. We will be extending the landscape area up as well as that path kind of along Veterans there. And with that, I'll get to how these lay out. And so this gives you an example of some of the different options that they'll have, and you can see some of the driveways are pushed back. So in these cases, this is a covered kind of driveway space with a tandem garage, and then the other one is just a 2-car garage where the driveway, basically the garage is up on the street. And so each house basically has anywhere from 3 to 4 parking spaces per unit with the on-street parking. And so this kind of gives a little bit of a backyard with these. So these are sort of like townhome style detached products. And so it's kind of a newer product for this area. Typically, when we think of townhomes, we think of all the units being attached. So these are detached, which gives somebody kind of that private lot setting with a little bit of a backyard. And then as we move on to 20B, also we'll be going to Planning Commission this month. This is 64 lots, and these are more of the single family attached. These are duplexes. They're all, the garages are basically loaded off of the alleyway, you can see here, and then they're attached. And then in the way they lay out, as you can see here, is they have basically the common areas will be, the front doors will access to this common area, which will go to the public, out to the public streets. I'm going to go back a little bit so you can see kind of what I'm talking about there. So basically there's a sidewalk down the middle, and then you have the front doors kind of facing these common areas. that provide access to these main public streets and walkways. And we'll have all landscaping in the common areas, which will be maintained by an HOA. And then there's on-street parking on the adjacent, on-street public parking on the adjacent streets. And these adjacent streets are full public width streets. And so with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. This gives you kind of a perspective of these were the previous approved projects earlier in 2021, 21 and 20C were recently approved by Planning Commission in December. What's going to Planning Commission in January is 20B, which were the duplexes I talked about, and then 20A, which are the compact lots. And you can see the continuation of the landscaping along Veterans there. And then also 22 will be that it's about 9.6 acres. This will be a future commercial center. We do not have plans for that at this time. And then as what was approved with this previous subdivision, you see in the grade lots is there was a future park that was part of that project that'll get constructed there as well. And then eventually, as we move to the north, this road will be extended to Veterans Parkway and will be another stoplight there as well. So with that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Derek. Any questions from the board?
This is Ryan Smith. No, I don't have any questions.
This is Jennifer Simeo. No, I don't have any questions. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
All right, Derek, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing how things shape up.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, this is Ilya Arbitman. And I think that's the last thing on our agenda. Is that right, Amy?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so if there's anything else we want to talk about seeing on next week's agenda, Jennifer or Ryan, go ahead. Otherwise, we can adjourn. And if there's any public comment too.
Yeah, let's see, what's the order of the first I'll have you do the future agenda items and then we'll have public comment.
Sure. Anything, Ryan or Jennifer, you guys like to see on a future agenda?
This is Ryan. Yeah, just to piggyback after what the council member said, having a crime report for Ward 3. It'd be nice also to have some information from the gang unit.
This is Amy Pennington. Sorry, did you say the gang unit?
Yeah, if there's if either Reno or even school districts gang unit, just for Ward 3, just because that's where I work.
Great, thank you.
This is Jennifer Simeo. I think just having information on where the city of Reno might be spending the federal COVID dollars when that kind of gets cemented, that would be nice to know.
That down too.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, those definitely would be curious to hear about both of those. Okay, and we can move down if there's any public comment.
Give it a second to see if anyone raises their hands on Zoom. Looks like there's no public comment.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
This is Ryan. I'll make the motion to adjourn the meeting.
This is Jennifer Simeo. I'll second that.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Ilya, you have to take the motion.
All right,
you
we
have to take the vote.
Right, let's vote. Everyone wants to adjourn? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, the Ward 3 NAB is officially adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
See you
guys have a good
soon.
night.
Thanks, Amy.
Have a good night.